Jy luister na Isak Du Plessis op Nuuspod.
Die groot nuus in Amerika, die presidentsverkiesing, en ek weet hier in ons land, Rhoda, jy sal dit nie glo nie, maar die mense debatteer verskriklik oor Trump en Biden, en hier's baie mense wat baie kwaad is vir Trump, al het hulle hom nog nooit ontmoet nie, en baie mense wat meen hy mag nie meer verder president wees nie, en daarom gesels ons 'n bietjie vanaand met jou. Jy sit daar in Amerika, dis Rhoda Kadalie, met amper kenstelling nodig nie, om 'n bietjie te hoor, is Trump regtig so sleg as wat die mense sê, maar kom ons hou daai vraag eers een kant, dis byna die groot verkiesing, en met 'n klomp goed wat nou al hierdie jaar gebeur het, wat hierdie presidentsverkiesing nou moes deurstaan, en uiteindelik is die groot dag amper hier. Wat gaan gebeur? Wat is die gevoel in Amerika? Wie gaan wen?
Hierdie land, sorry, I'm going to speak English. This country is divided. It's divided between the Democratic states and the Republican states. And I tell you frankly, for the first time, I cannot tell you who's going to win. In 2016, I was very sure Trump would win, and I said it everywhere in South Africa. Firstly, Trump has the best economy ever. And before COVID, the unemployment rate fell to 3.5%. He had the lowest in history in Black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, unemployment for women. It was record-setting. And then we had COVID and the country shut down. But you know what? The country is booming back against everybody's expectations. 11.5 million jobs have been created since COVID. And just today, the GDP rate came out. Now, Trump just said at a rally that he would have been happy with 12%. It's booming back 33.1%. 33.1%. And so every president has won on the economy. And the first time people are saying, even though Trump's economy is doing well, on his personality, he's going to lose. So I don't believe that. Secondly, Trump has had rallies across the country. So remember on the 2nd of October, he had COVID. And that created a dent in his campaign. But since that, his rallies, they're open-air rallies at airports. And he has from 12 to 25,000 people rock up, whereas the most Biden got is 100. And today, Biden said that he doesn't get as many people because he respects the lockdown. Trump has done more on COVID than any world leader. So just today, we heard that on therapeutics alone, the country is going to roll out Regeneron, which Trump got when he had COVID, and Remdesivir. A vaccine will be out before the end of the year. So even though they lambast Trump for COVID-19, under Obama, 60 million people had swine flu. If Obama were president and swine flu was as contagious as COVID-19, millions of people would have died. So when COVID-19 struck, all the epidemiologists and the virus scientists said 2 million people are going to die. 220,000 people die in a country of 340 million people, and our fatality rate is the lowest across the world, across the first world.
Well, nou met jou verder daar, excuse, yes,
can I just make a point? So when COVID broke out, what did Trump do? He mobilized all the CEOs of the top companies, car companies, and he said, can you diversify and create ventilators? We are now exporting ventilators to the world. So he got his CEOs to work on vaccines, PPE, equipment, ventilators like you cannot imagine. And he's put billions into the discovery of vaccines. So he's done more than anybody, any leader possible.
Okay. Ek wil nou met jou verder oor daai tegnikaliteite gesels, want daar is wêreldwyd groot kritiek teen Trump oor sy hantering van die COVID en pandemie, en jy het nou net gesê hy doen teen die verwagting van ander mense in baie goed daaroor. Maar ek wil eers gou iets anders uit die weg ruim. Die groot kritiek teen Trump is die feit dat hy 'n misogynist is en dat hy 'n rasis is. Dis van al die goed wat mense hom noem. Maar nou hier sit voor my op die skerm 'n bruin vrou, so dis twee goed wat volgens ander mense Trump teen is, maar boonop is jy nie net 'n bruin vrou nie, jy kom uit Suid-Afrika uit met sekere struggle credentials agter jou, so dit is vir mense snaaks of vreemd, eerder is die regte woord, dat iemand soos Rhoda Kadalie vir Trump verdedig. Verduidelik dit vir ons.
Okay, so the notion that Trump is racist and misogynist is a Democratic talking point because that's exactly what they are. No one has made more racist statements than Biden during this election campaign. He said to an anchor, a news anchor, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. He was against the integration of schools. And he said, if we integrate the schools, then we're going to have racial jungles. He called black felons super predators. He supported segregationists, and they called Trump the white supremacist. So Robert Byrd, the head of the Ku Klux Klan, was his best chummy. So all the stuff that they accused Trump of is not true. So, for example, when Trump was a businessman, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, all these black leaders went cap in hand for donations from him. He even got the award, the Black Achievement Award, for supporting black businesses and black issues. Trump is not a misogynist. He's got the top woman in his in the White House to run his campaign. He has employed more women than any other business leader that I know of, and in his government, women are taking leading positions. So all this nonsense about Trump is a lie. When Trump got into power, he had 6% of the black vote. It is up now, according to the Rasmussen poll, by 40 to 50% amongst African Americans. Now you have these leading black rappers, black stars coming out in support of Trump. What people don't know is that Trump has given historically black universities and colleges more money by 14% than Obama did. Okay, historically black. Secondly, he reduced the unemployment rate for women and for blacks. And black people are seeing this because 56%, just last week came out that 56% of the people are happier the last 4 years than they've been under Obama. And that is why they have to vilify Trump, because what Trump does for black America is never shown on CNN, on MSNBC, on CBS. They block out that kind of information. So Trump has had a black business summit in the White House. He's had a black youth summit. He has had black pastors, all the evangelical black pastors in the White House. And you have never seen as much black support for a president than we have now. So all this bunkum, all this lie, all these lies about Trump is a misogynist and a racist are exactly what the Democrats are. Because you know what the biggest threat is to the Democrat Party? Is to lose the black vote. Because the only card that they can play is the race card. And it's hollow. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't give them money anymore.
Maar dit wat jy nou gesê het, klink so bietjie soos hier in Suid-Afrika as iemand sê, nee man, ek is nie 'n rasis nie, ek het swart vriende. So 'n bietjie kommentaar daarop.
Yeah, but you know, that is a trope. That is a trope. I am a social scientist, so I look at evidence. And I've watched all Trump's events for black people in America. And the black people themselves will come out. Senator Tim Scott the other day, he did the best on criminal justice reform. And who opposed it? Kamala Harris. She opposed it. The Democrats opposed it because he has got the best criminal justice reform legislation on the books, which they will not support. So, for example, his First Step Act was to reduce the sentencing of black people who were unfairly more imprisoned under Biden's crime bill and whom he called super predators than under Trump. So the First Step Act has released over 1,000 black people who were unfairly sentenced. And I can bring you those black people who have benefited from the First Step Act. You will not hear that on the news. You don't know of Alice Johnson, whom he brought out. You don't know of the black rapper who was locked up in Sweden that Trump brought back home. You won't hear of Kanye West and what he does to get people mobilized in support of Trump. How do you think Trump is getting from Rasmussen, who isn't very pro-Trump? The Rasmussen poll puts it up to 50% that he will get that kind of support. And so some of my best friends are black is a nonsense. It's a nonsense in America. Secondly, many black people were very unhappy under Obama because here came the hope and change man. And guess what? He was nothing but an establishment candidate. Why do people like Trump? He's an outsider. He's not part of the Washington swamp. Now, you know, since I'm here, I'm amazed and shocked at what a swamp Washington, D.C. is. The Democrats are even more corrupt than the ANC. And you know why their corruption doesn't affect this country as much? Because it's not a poor country. It's a rich country. South Africa's corruption impoverishes people of a hospital, a school, housing, and so on. But under Trump, we have seen the Washington corruption swamp for what it is. They are beholden to Wall Street. They are beholden to mega donors. They are beholden to lobbyists. For example, Trump has reduced medicines by far.
Verkeersboetes behels meer as 'n klein ongerief met minimale gevolge. Jy kan 'n kriminele rekord kry of probleme teekom as jy jou rybewys of motorlisensie hernie en die metropolisie kan jou by padblokkades lastigval om die boetes te betaal. Fines for You verminder moeite met verkeersboetes deur hul te monitor en vinnig, wetlik en effektief af te handel sodat jy nie die ongewenste gevolge hoef te dra nie. Ons spesialiseer in groot vlote en streef daarna om jou geld te bespaar. Kontak ons gerus op 011 867 7331 of besoek ons webtuiste by www.finesforyou.co.za.
Jy luister na Isak Du Plessis op Nuuspod.
Is dit nie waar dat Trump daarom regtig al 'n klomp nasty goed vir mense gesê het? Ek praat spesifiek teenoor vroue sekere uitlatings gemaak het en teenoor joernaliste op onbillike maniere uitgevaar het en die sulke goed maak hy die lewe nie ook maar vir homself baie moeilik nie.
Jy mag gee vir my 'n voorbeeld van wat Trump van vrouens gesê het. Gee vir my 'n voorbeeld. Trump is not Bill Clinton.
No,
Bill Clinton raped women and he paid out many sums of money against women whom he has molested. Under Bill Clinton, the Democrats had a rapist in the White House. Trump 10 years ago said what a lot of men say around the braai place about women. 10 years ago, and that clip was released by a friend who was with him when he said it. More importantly, what kind of a friend are you when you release the kind of locker room talk that men are about 10 years before they run for office? That is the only thing people can refer to and call him a misogynist. Trump himself says, I love women, and you can see it. He loves women. He appoints them to top jobs, and they are very happy in their jobs. So it is a lie that Trump is a misogynist. Secondly, that Trump is I already repudiated that. If Trump were a racist, I wouldn't support him. And if he were a racist, then he's very bad at it because his polling numbers against in favor of blacks is going up sky high.
Okay.
So
Kom ons
the persona that's being sketched about Trump is exactly what one often gets with liberal whites in South Africa who patronize black people. You know what black leaders are saying here? We're walking off the plantation because the plantation makes liberal whites feel good. When they can no longer control us, they feel threatened. And you know what Trump does? He doesn't patronize black people. They are his equals. And he said to them, you've been supporting the Democrats for so many years. What have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? Try me. And they've tried him out, and things have improved a lot for black people under Trump.
Okay, maar daar is mense en daar's 'n lang lys mense uit sy administrasie wat in die afgelope 4 jaar bedank het en gesê het hoorie so hulle hou regtig nie van hierdie man en sy karakter nie. Daar's mense kan nou 'n hele lang lys gaan noem as 'n mens wil, maar wat is jou kommentaar op die feit dat van sy vertrouelinge en meer as daarom net 'n handvol uitgestap het en gesê ons kan nie saam met hierdie man werk nie.
Okay, I'm gonna answer that question, but just to go back to your previous question, fake news and the people whom Trump calls names. If you notice what Trump does, he never attacks people who don't attack him. If you attack Trump, he will come back at you 10 times harder. Secondly, the New York Times hates Trump. They've had to apologize 1 million times for misrepresenting Trump, for lying about Trump. Washington Post is owned by Amazon boss Jeff Bezos, who hates Trump with a passion. So he calls them out, and that's why he tweets. You know why Trump tweets? Because he speaks to the American people directly. Big tech is in front of Congress today and Senate today for the way they are censoring conservative voices and even the president. Where have you heard of a media company censoring the president? Why are they doing it? Because they hated that he gets to the people directly through his tweets. I have been dealing with the media in South Africa for many years. And I can write a book about how they lied about Tony Leon. They lied about Helen Ziller. They're still lying about Helen Ziller. They have never portrayed her honestly. And you know what? When your country is a mess, like it is under the ANC, you would give Helen Ziller and Tony Leon and the Democratic Alliance the benefit of the doubt and say, the Western Cape proves that the DA can govern. Let's give them a try. No, but why is it not changing? Because the media, with their white guilt, abets the ANC in all their sin and corruption. And so to come back to your last question, what was it again?
Omtrent die mense wat bedank en voor jy dit antwoord wil ek net gou vir jou kom ons kyk na een voorbeeld net terwille van 'n voorbeeld die minister van verdediging James Mattis in 2018 wat 'n brief geskryf het met sy bedanking en wat hy sê hy noem Trump the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people. En dan is daar 'n lang lys sulke mense ook wat jy nie fake news kan noem nie, want daar is dokumentêre bewyse vir dit wat hulle teen Trump sê.
Okay, let's get to James Matters. James Matters is part of the military-industrial complex. Do you know what they hate about Trump? The left should love Trump because he's the anti-war Trump. The military-industrial complex love war because there's big money in defense, big money in the Pentagon, and they love war. That Trump wants to pull out of Afghanistan. Matters didn't want that. Matters didn't want him to stop war in countries where America's forces were. For example, on NATO, he's called NATO out. America protects Germany in Europe against Russia and China, and yet Trump found out that Angela Merkel gets her oil from Russia. So Trump says, why must we protect you when you dabble in foreign policy relations with Russia? You see what Trump has done. He has pulled out and he said, now you pay your fair share because we're tired of being the policeman of the world. So the left has always repudiated America for wanting to be the policeman of the world, for military engagements, and now that Trump has pulled back, they all criticize him. What do they want? Do they want war? He killed Soleimani. He killed al-Baghdadi. The mother of all, the Moab bomb, he launched the bomb on Syria when they used chemical weapons. It was targeted, it was precise. When Trump did all of those three things, everybody says, ooh, we're going to have World War III. When Obama left office, Trump asked him, what are the two things I should be worried about? Obama said North Korea, because that's going to be a World War III. North Korea has behaved since Trump came into office. Now, you must remember that Trump inherited the swamp, who worked in the White House, worked up in key posts in the government, and Trump didn't know that. He's the outsider. He doesn't know how the Washington machine works. So he trusted these people. He trusted people who wanted to impeach him. He inherited Director Comey from the FBI. Comey started the biggest hoax against President Trump with the impeachment campaign. Many people said to him, you must fire Comey. And he said, I want him to like me, because that's Trump's policy. He wants people to like him. And he doesn't listen to advice. And then he burns his fingers because he tried to trust James Comey. Today, James Comey is the pariah of the FBI world. The FBI hates him because he misled them on the Russian hoax. So there are a whole lot of people whom Trump inherited who promised to be untrustworthy. And he had to get rid of them. And his White House is running much better. It's the president's right to employ people whom he wants. He now has the right kind of people around him, the right kind of people who support him, and very few who undermine him. And what Trump had to realize when he got into office, I was being spied upon by the previous president. And he had the CIA, he had the FBI, he had the national intelligence, he had his Democratic Party, the media, Hollywood, and academia on his side. Obama was corrupt. What did Lenin and Marx say? You occupy all the levers of power if you want control. And in his 8th year of office, Obama occupied all those levers of power. Hollywood for number one, academia, the national intelligence, CIA, the FBI, all of them mobilized against Trump. Because Trump is going to smash the Washington establishment.
Kom ons, jy het nou daaraan geraak, kom ons bespreek dit so klein bietjie verder. Trump se hantering van die COVID-19 pandemie in Amerika self. Soos ons nou weet, Amerika het tans die meeste infeksies van al die lande in die wêreld, ook die meeste sterftes, en daar's baie kritiek teen Trump oor sy hantering daarvan, asof hy so 'n bietjie van 'n laissez-faire houding teenoor die siekte het, of die infeksie, en dan die tipe goed wat hy doen, soos om aanvanklik te geweier het om 'n masker te dra, en ligtelik oor met die ding om te gaan. So daar's baie mense wat nou meen, Trump is 'n bydraende faktor tot die feit dat Amerika die hoogste infeksiesyfer het en die hoogste sterftesyfer het. Kom ons gesels verder daaroor.
We have the highest number of cases because we have the highest number of tests. No leader in the world has tested 120 million people. That's how many we've tested. But not every positive means people are sick. People are now living with the disease. They're managing with the disease. And Trump himself had it, and he came out immediately after a couple of days cured from the infection. The fatality rate is not the highest in the world. That's a lie. 220,000 per capita of 340 million people. That's not the highest in the world. You have to look at Italy, Spain, even Germany, and France, and those spikes are coming back. So some democratic states have locked down, others have not locked down. And guess what? Our economy is booming back. So it's a toss-up, a balance between, are you going to teach people to live with the disease and invest in therapeutics, which Trump did phenomenally well. He's got all kinds of medicines that people can now use. And at his rallies, he promises to roll out Regeneron and Remdesivir that he got for free of charge. Now, did you know that under Trump, people get HIV medicine free of charge? He's rolled it out free of charge. That's the kind of news you will never hear on the mainstream media. And so,
maar is daar nie kritiek teen die gebruik van Remdesivir nie? Daar is, ek weet daar is mense wat sê, maar dit is nie regtig die regte goed om te gebruik nie.
Well, in America, where we have the best scientific labs and pharmaceutical labs, they have cocktails of therapeutics. And that's what's important, that you use some with others and not totally. And so Trump was on Remdesivir. Trump was on it. Trump was even on hydrochloroquine that nobody wants to give credit to. We in Africa have used hydroxychloroquine for years against malaria, and suddenly, because Trump espouses it, it's a sin, it's a no-no. So when people are dying, you are going to experiment. Some drugs are better than others, and all drugs have after effects. Trump is a leader. He's a fearless leader. He is going to say to his people, we can either lock down and you die from overdose, drug abuse, suicides, domestic violence, or we live with the disease and we manage it and we see how best you can contribute. Trump doesn't patronize his people. And secondly, you know what South Africans don't know and the world doesn't know, is that this is a federal state. States and cities are autonomous from what the government. Health is a state-level occupation. And he allows his governors and mayors to govern and rule as they see fit. But what happened? In New York, the cases spiked, okay? Because New York's context is different to many others in the world. It's a highly mobile state. It is a finance capital. People fly in and out, high density buildings and so on. The New York governor, a Democrat who doesn't like Trump, calls Trump and he says, I need your help. And what does Trump do? Even Governor Cuomo says, Trump gave us everything we needed. He sent the Mercy ship, the comfort ship, that has 1,000 beds. Cuomo didn't even use it. He converted a big conference hall into a hospital center. Gavin Newsom, who is our governor in New York, both of them don't like Trump, and they both said, promises made, promises kept. We cannot fault Trump on the way he assisted us with COVID. Now, there are these other governors who are happy because what does COVID do? It gives public officials power. So they use it to be petty tyrants, to lock down their people, to police them, to use the mask as the yellow star against people. Suddenly, do you know, I'm 67. I'm high risk. I haven't worn a mask once since the disease broke out. Because I refuse to let any government tell me how I should run my life. The problem with South Africa is, even before COVID, it never had a good health care system. And if you don't invest in your health care of your nation, you're going to have the problems that South Africa has. We have hospitals here. We have a friend who works in a top hospital here. She says we're not getting any COVID cases. The ICUs are not full of COVID cases. And most of the people who died are elderly, who had diabetes, who had kidney problems, who had other problems.
Wil jy seker maak dat jou boedelbeplanning, eiendomstransaksie of ander regswerk deur professionele kundiges hanteer word? Hurterspies Prokureurs beskik oor uitstekende kundigheid wat die opstel van testamente en die hantering van boedels betref. Hurterspies Prokureurs het ook bekendheid verwerf vir hulle sukses met litigasie oor jou burgerregte. Kliënte se unieke behoeftes word deeglik deur kundiges op elke terrein hanteer. Skakel Hurterspies Prokureurs vandag nog vir 'n konsultasie by 012-941-9239 of stuur 'n e-pos aan admin@hurterspies.co.za. Dis 012-941-9239.
Nuuspod. Die tuiste vir Afrikaanse stories agter die nuus.
Daar's verskriklik baie vrae wat ek jou nog wil vra, maar ons gaan die hele aand praat, so ek gaan nou maar die laaste vraag vra. Ek vra dit spesiaal, ek het 'n inskrywing op my Facebook gemaak wat die mense verskriklik laat reageer het. En daar's sommer mense wat my unfriend het as gevolg van die inskrywing, maar nietemin. Een van my vriende op Facebook sê ek moet vir jou vra. Hendrik Martin, hy is by Monitor. Hy sê, vra haar of Trump die mantel van leader of the free world om sy skouers kan hang. Hy sal luister om te hoor hoe jy die vraag beantwoord.
I think Trump is the best leader the world has had. Do you know what shocks me is that Trump is the only leader that calls out China. South Africa under Ramaphosa is dependent on China. China bails out. So Ramaphosa never condemned China for the Wuhan virus. Okay? Did you hear Angela Merkel condemn China? Did you hear France condemn China? China is Machiavellian in the way they infiltrate countries. They even infiltrated here. And Joe Biden is they call him here China Joe. Joe China. Because America is going to be dependent on China if Biden wins. Because Biden has been his son has been paid $1.5 billion from a Chinese bank. Okay? Trump is a fearless leader. Look at the way he killed al-Baghdadi. He killed Soleimani. Soleimani was General Soleimani from Iran, who was the world terrorist everywhere in the world. He sponsored terrorism all over the world. Trump took them out stylishly and with precision. But there's no war. There's no war subsequent to those actions. So on foreign policy, Trump is a world leader. And you know why Angela Merkel doesn't like him and the EU don't like him? Because Trump is saying, be autonomous. Stop depending on America. We are not your daddy. And you know what is ironic? Is that all these left-wing people, They actually want America to be their daddy. They actually want America, they want to hate America, but they also want aid from America. And when there are hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes, America should bail them out. Trump treats people equally, and he allows people autonomy and independence of leadership and thought. And actually, he's not interested in how people run their countries because he's an American nationalist. He says, my job is to look after America. What did Obama do? Obama gave $150 billion to Iran. He destroyed Benghazi and Libya. Obama destroyed Benghazi and Libya. George Bush destroyed Iraq, Syria. Trump wants to have nothing to do with the way countries run themselves. But if they interfere in America, he will take them out. He will deal with them. And that's a leader. He's fearless. And on coronavirus, he shows his fearlessness. Why are people refusing to wear masks? Not because they're scared of COVID. It's because they're tired of petty governors and mayors telling them how to run their lives. Did you know the story of the salon where the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, didn't wear a mask? She went to the salon to get her hair done when everybody was under lockdown. That salon owner released the video to the world. That's the problem. Laws for me, but not for thee. Laws for thee, but not for me. And a lot of these leaders here in Democrat states, and I live in one. I live in California, which is a Democrat state, which has more homeless people than, it's the richest state. California is the richest state, but it has more homeless people than I have ever seen anywhere in the world. Why do people come here? Because everything is free. The sun is here. They are dependent on welfare. Do you know what they did under COVID? This governor put the homeless into top hotels, provided them with drugs until the owners kicked them out. That is what a social welfare state is, and that is what a socialist state is. Create dependency. And Trump calls all these Democrat governors out for the way they run their cities. Because you know what? Look at the riots. Minneapolis, Seattle, Chicago. They encourage Black Lives Matter to destroy because it would make Trump's re-election possible. But after they destroyed those cities, what did they do? They ran to Trump to bail them out with the National Guard. Now, if Trump were a dictator, he would send in the National Guard, but he's not allowed to. They have to ask him. So, in my view, Trump is the leader for this time and this place with all his flaws. I'm not saying he's perfect, and I love Trump's imperfections. It's very biblical, because throughout history, Moses was highly flawed, okay? Moses was highly flawed. King David was highly flawed. King Saul was highly flawed. God uses
Dis baie mooi.
They use imperfect people to run a perfect job.
Rhoda, ek het nou gesê dis die laaste vraag, maar ek dink altyd in die laaste vraag gaan nog iets. En jy het dit nou gesê, en ek dink mens moet tog iets daarvan ook sê. Want dis nou 'n ding wat nou die laaste tyd baie groot geraak het, met die George Floyd storie, en nou is daar weer 'n swart man geskiet, en daar word goed gesê oor die Amerikaanse polisie, jou indrukke daarvan.
Do you know people exploit these killings when in fact 15 people have been killed by white police of unarmed blacks? 15. And if you look at the stats, more white people are killed by white cops and unarmed whites. So it's a myth that there is police systemic racism. It's a big lie. Just like white supremacy is a lie, police brutality is a lie in America. I've never seen police so polite, so forthcoming, so helpful. Secondly, George Floyd was no hero. Why did he have a criminal record? Because he pointed a gun at a pregnant woman while his friends were ransacking her house. The guy yesterday who was shot had a criminal record as long as my arm. The question is, why is it always these black men who are criminals who get shot? And if you listen to podcaster Jericho Green, you know what he said? He says the new lottery is for a black man to be shot because then they get paid out millions, because white guilt in America has not subsided since slavery. There is no country that fought a war over racism and slavery like America. It had a war to end it. But why do they keep using racism? Because the Democrats, when they were in power, did nothing to improve the lives of African Americans. In fact, under black president, under Democratic presidents, the condition and the situation of black people have not improved in America. Under Trump, how do you create success? How do you get rid of racism? Is when you provide unemployment as Trump has done. So I have no patience with these people who claim, for example, Black Lives Matter. Why is Black Lives Matter on the bandwagon when a cop shoots a black person, but every week in Chicago, 20 to 50 people are shot? Every week. You can go and look at the stats. Every week, children of 3 and 6 and 11 are shot, and Black Lives Matter is silent because Black Lives Matter don't give a damn about black lives. They're all about socialism. Look at their manifesto. They are anti-black families. Transgenderism is the cornerstone of their policy. Transgenderism. I mean, how many percentage of the population is transgendered? And they believe in destroying capitalism. So they look for these instances when a police shoots a black guy. The guy who was shot yesterday, he waved a knife. That is being armed. He wasn't unarmed. He lashed out with a knife at people. And the police laws here are very clear that if you brandish a knife at a police officer, you will be shot. So Black Lives Matter is a myth. All lives matter. And you know what? I don't adhere to the tyranny of Black Lives Matter. Here, everybody in my area, which is a very white elite area, they have little signs, Black Lives Matter. I'm opposite, my neighbor opposite has big Biden-Harris signs. They don't even greet me because I'm black. So I don't take these people seriously. I don't take these people seriously because you know what? They want blacks like me to provide them with their to restore white innocence. So they're full of guilt and they put these signs up, but meanwhile, they don't greet blacks in their neighborhood.
Het is nog wel 'n interessante punt om oor te gesels, maar ek gaan nou hier stop want ek sal die hele nag met jou gesels. Rhoda Kadalie. baie dankie dat jy met ons gepraat het vanuit Amerika. Dankie vir jou deelname aan Nuuspod. Jy moet dis nou middag by jou. Jy moet 'n lekker res van die middag hê. Hier by my is dit 0:30 voor middernag. So ek gaan nou
voor die uitslae van die election, né?
Ek gaan beslis weer met jou praat. Baie dankie Rhoda. Lekker slaap. Nee, jy hoef nie te slaap nie. Ek moet gaan slaap.
En slaap lekker. Lekker slaap.
Jy moet 'n lekker middag hê, Tara.
Wil jy seker maak dat jou boedelbeplanning, eiendomstransaksie of ander regswerk deur professionele kundiges hanteer word? Hurterspies Prokureurs beskik oor uitstekende kundigheid wat die opstel van testamente en die hantering van boedels betref. Hurterspies Prokureurs het ook bekendheid verwerf vir hulle sukses met litigasie oor jou burgerregte. Kliënte se unieke behoeftes word deeglik deur kundiges op elke terrein hanteer. Skakel Hurter Spies Prokureurs vandag nog vir 'n konsultasie by 012 941 9239 of stuur 'n e-pos aan admin@hurterspies.co.za. Dis 012 941 9239.
Nuuspod. Die tuiste vir Afrikaanse stories agter die nuus.